Hello, everyone. Let's look at the simplest way you can start brewing all grain and kind of without the science and everything, but let's just make it as simple as possible because it can get really, um, advanced here and really get into the weeds, but let's make it look as simple as possible, just to, especially for your first all grain brew. And this happens to be a pretty big beer, though, so there's a lot of grain here, as you can see. We have our specialty grains in the front and on the 1 pound bags, all the base malts in the back with some Pilsners and Munich type stuff in the back with the 5 pound bags. There's 20 pounds in total of grain. Also have some lactose sugar there. Um, the candy syrup that will be added towards the end of the boil. We'll go over that in a different slide. Um, and also when to add, so like as I said, when to add them. Um, the yeast is there in the front. It's a Belgian Abbey type of yeast. The hops are actually in the fridge, so I apologize for that not being pictured, but you can get the idea there. All right, here is the um, software I use. It's a free software from brewersfriend.com. You just add in the malts that you're using, any type of fermentable you would add. You can also figure out what type of hops you're going to use. I didn't type in the type. I just added the alpha acid, the amount, and when I was going to add it, and that can give you your hop utilization basically, which is your IBUs. If any of that does change with your efficiency, though, keep in mind that will change what the IBU comes out to be. So when you are creating a recipe, make sure you figure out what type of efficiency you usually hit. This will be lower efficiency, by the way, with higher gravity brews. So make sure that is, you know, figured out in your recipe building, and don't add too many hops if you're looking for like a certain IBU sort of thing. Next is let's talk about the vessels you're going to need. There's three main vessels for all grain brewing. One is your mash tun. I happen to use a cooler with a ball valve and a screen at the bottom of that. And then here you can see on the right, on top of my stove, is the 7.5 gallon brew kettle, and then a 5 gallon sparge vessel for the sparging process of the water. Now, the cooler, by the way, is 10 gallons, and I can get about, probably 25 pounds in there safely to have a good mash process. Not necessarily the best in 25 pounds, but at 20 is pretty comfortable with a 1.25 grist to water ratio. Um, Here we're going to also talk a little bit about the steps you're going to go over for mashing your mash and then boil kettle and stuff like that. First you're going to heat the water up. I usually start in my boil kettle because I usually need more water in the mash um, process at first before sparging. So I'll heat up as much water as I need there. This for this recipe, it happened to be about 6.5 gallons of water, and I got to about 170 degrees. And the reason being, once I mashed in, I lost about 15 degrees of mash water, but I knew that was going to happen. It got me right to about 155, which is where I wanted to be for my mash. From there, you want to mash for about 1 hour. Um, they say you're probably done in 15 minutes, but you want to make sure that whole thing goes through. Um, and after that, um, any higher, you would be um, possibly having like off flavors and sort of things like that. I do tend to make my beers around the 155-ish range because it gives you a medium balance of getting the full body out of the beer you're looking for, but also a little bit of dryness. If you hit your gravity, or sorry, gravity, your mash water around 148, you will be getting a drier type of beer. And anything below that, you actually won't convert the starches to sugars that you're looking for. Um, and all I do is actually take a measuring device you can see on the left side of the sparge vessel and dump that water in there without having any sort of fancy equipment to get the water in easier. And then once that is done mashing, I will put some like warming type pan holders, on the ground. Put the boil kettle below the ball valve and get ready to collect the wort. At that time, I'm also starting to add sparge water to the top. You want to have about 2 inches of sparge water at the top to keep the your grain warm. You don't want to have it. You don't want to have to lose temperature as well. This is a little tip I just want to put on here real quick. Your grains you want to have ready so you don't lose too much temperature. So I cut them all open, getting ready to mash in, stir in there. That way I wasn't losing any temperature, and then spending time cutting this before it was open. Now, as you're sparging, go really slow. This took me about 45 to 50 minutes. That's about the recommended time, 45 to 60 minutes. You don't want to go fast, as you will actually lose efficiency in the sparging process, and then your final gravity will be way lower than you're looking for. So, like I said, 45 to 50 minutes or 60 minutes from there. And keeping about 2 inches of water at the top of about 175 degree water, by the way. And then that's the sparging process. This beer ended up being this is high gravity. I wanted to boil for about 90 minutes. Normally you can just boil for 60 minutes, but you don't really need to worry about that with a 1060-ish type beer. But anything over 1080, I always boil longer. You can even do 120 minutes. Your real big, nice stouts, I would do 120 minutes as well, just to have a nice, sweet characteristic to it. Now, one thing you're going to want to look at with your boil is there's not a lot of space in here. It might go a little crazy, so you have to kind of watch the heat and turn it down from time to time. Or get a bigger boil kettle, you can have a more rigorous type boil. But a rolling boil does work just fine. Let's talk about hops a little bit here too. I always have them kind of next to the boil kettle, measured out, ready for the next hop addition, depending on what you're doing. And especially for a hoppier beer, we're going to have them all laid out, ready to go, times written down on a piece of paper or something. This is also, we're going to start adding other things like your candy syrup for Belgian beers, sugars, other additives, type of thing that you might want to have in there. I don't add coffee to my stouts in the boil. I'll add them right there at the end. That is what a nice rolling boil will look like. You can kind of see the bubble going there on the right side. This is also towards the end. You're going to want to add your Werflock or Irish moss sort of thing. If you want to add that, that is going to get you a nice, clean, crisp, clear beer at the end versus a cloudier beer. But for a Belgian Quad, you expect to have a little, and stouts have a little more cloudiness anyhow. However, the more you can clear it up, the better, of course. Also, look at making sure you want to get ready to do a cool down here. There's 2 different methods you can look at cooling down. One's going to be an ice bath in a bucket. Next is going to be I'm sorry. There's another method. You can put a device inside there, and that is going to it's a coil that will cool down your wort as fast as possible, about 15 minutes. A lot of brewers use that as well. I'll have to add this to the comments, so I do apologize. However, so what that will do is cool down fast as possible and get ready for the fermenter. I do want to add a fermenting video later. I feel like it's a whole other topic, really. But that is basically all you need to do to get ready for your all-grain brew. Have the ingredients ready. Get your waters ready for mashing. Have everything kind of laid out, and then have a whole plan written down based on your temperatures you're going to need for the type of beer you're making. So plan on that, and then have all your ingredients ready. Other than that, that is your first all-grain brew.